a land creature born with unparalleled physical traits, roamed freely, swift, resilient, and nearly unstoppable. Despite its brilliance in form, its mind was painfully lacking, incapable of complex thought or logic. From this absurd contradiction, a new beastman race emerged, echoing the ostrich might and foolishness. Among them, one unique soul awakened, a reincarnated human trapped in this bizarre, powerful body. By age 5, memories returned. With clarity and intelligence restored, she prepared to lead her tribe. Morning light filled the sky. Yet the tribe remained confused, incapable of recognizing even simple truths. With visible effort she explained day and night, pointing at the sun and moon repeatedly. Expressions remained blank. Even basic concepts like breakfast and morning were foreign to the clueless flock. Frustration grew as she repeated herself, each lesson forgotten within moments of being taught. Looking back, she remembered being that way too, before her memories and awareness returned fully. A sudden impact to the skull jolted her consciousness, stirring memories buried deep within. That blow triggered a cascade, unleashing her entire past life into one tiny brain. Overloaded by information, her mind exploded, metaphorically unable to contain everything at once. Thanks to powerful regeneration, her brain kept growing and bursting in a vicious cycle of recovery. Months later, memories stabilized, her thoughts aligned, and her transformation into a sentient being was complete. Smells clung to the group after days without bathing, prompting her desperate need for water. Eyes sharpened, she scanned the landscape and spotted a distant oasis several kilometers away. Curious followers gathered as she suggested a wash, gradually convincing them through gestures and enthusiasm. Before she could react, the young ones excitedly bolted ahead, ignoring any explanation. Forced to chase them down, she darted forward, carrying two with surprising speed and balance. Smells clung to the group after days without bathing, prompting her desperate need for water. Eyes sharpened, she scanned the landscape and spotted a distant oasis several kilometers away. Curious followers gathered as she suggested a wash, gradually convincing them through gestures and enthusiasm. Before she could react, the young ones excitedly bolted ahead, ignoring any explanation. Forced to chase them down, she darted forward, carrying two with surprising speed and balance. She reacted instantly, striking the bird with precision and marveling at the instincts her new body granted. Soon after, the small beastkin gathered around her, their confused looks revealing simple needs she struggled to interpret. Once she mentioned food, excitement erupted, and the group celebrated the single word they understood. Observing them closely, she realized their growth had halted while she continued developing steadily. Life became a constant cycle of guiding these clueless children. She often attempted to slip away, yet the children swarmed her every time, refusing to let go. Survival remained difficult as dangerous creatures roamed nearby, forcing her to stay alert and protect the group. Her strength and knowledge allowed them to handle only a few threats, while the rest required retreat. During some encounters, not everyone escaped, despite everything. The plateau stayed their home, a hostile land where only their resilient kind endured. Reizu struggled to manage the ostrich beastkin. Their constant demands pushed her to exhaustion daily. Under the quiet night sky, she admitted to herself that she'd nearly lost control entirely. She tiptoed away from the sleeping flock, hoping to reclaim a sliver of freedom unnoticed. One sharp-eyed chick spotted her. Reizu froze as the others awoke, eyes wide with curiosity. She bolted. Instinct kicked in. They all sprinted after her, fast and eager for breakfast. Reizu pointed into the distance, hoping distraction would scatter the curious chicks. They paused, confused. Thinking she'd escaped, she slowed her pace, but sharp eyes locked onto her instantly. She fled again. The chasing group grew larger as another flock merged into the stampede. At last, she led them somewhere safe. Their care during her illness remained in her heart. Over time, they accepted her as their leader. Reizu stood tall, flock united behind her. Reizu stood proud among the ever-growing flock. Leadership now came with acceptance and overwhelming numbers. Despite her bond with them, loneliness lingered. She yearned for a real conversation, not just noise. Their priorities clashed. While Reizu worried about survival, the chicks only thought of breakfast. She tried reasoning. Instead, excited cheers followed. The hunt had become a chant for food. Even so, Reizu pressed forward. In this harsh world, she refused to fall behind again. Reizu longed to meet someone intelligent. Her useless wings couldn't lift her into the sky. Ostrich traits amazed her. Their bodies adapted well, boasting abilities she hadn't expected at all. Raising them became second nature. She even mastered fire, making a skill once beyond her reach. Though doubt lingered, she decided to embrace her strange life as their leader for now. Suddenly, an explosion shattered the calm. Flock and leader turned to face a rising threat. Reju assessed the situation. The explosion could be a creature or several. Her instincts sharpened. She formed a plan. If allies were in danger, they would assist. If not, strike fast. With a sharp command, she led the flock. Their coordinated charge echoed across the plain. Though it felt like any other day, she secretly hoped for a real challenge. What seemed routine would shift everything. Unaware, Reju ran toward a moment that would change fate. Reju counted the seconds. She believed someone worth meeting was just ahead beyond the smoke, with urgency in her voice. She rallied the young ones. Their eager eyes reflected her drive. Confidence surged. This hunt wasn't for food, it was for proof that she wasn't alone. Reju raced across the open field, her flock thundering behind as their destination neared. From beneath the earth, a massive beast erupted, sharp fangs bared, its presence shaking the ground. She launched upward, signaling her team to flank wide and prepare for the assault. Charging blindly would be suicide. Reju steered her group clear from a direct confrontation. With precision, they struck the creature's weak point, driving straight into its exposed torso. Reju struck the ground with full force, her powerful kick creating a devastating shockwave on impact. From above, her landing sent dust flying as her allies reacted with awe and urgency. Without delay, the young fighters launched into motion, leaping forward with unwavering determination. Each one landed their blow with precision, their coordinated strikes pounding in rhythmic unison. Despite the chaos, they pushed forward, targeting weak spots as fragments and energy erupted around them. Rizzo stood by as her team delivered explosive strikes, requiring no extra commands from her. Despite solid execution, the group occasionally faced trouble, confusion spreading fast when one began to flee. A sudden retreat exposed them to flanking enemies, forcing a hasty escape from both sides. After the chaos settled, Reju gathered everyone together to regroup and check for injuries. Surrounded by chatter and questions, she reassured them warmly, saving breakfast plans for later. Reju turned her attention to the ones chased earlier, curious if they were safe and unharmed. With high energy, she rallied the group to begin searching, guiding them away from distractions. Thoughts of food briefly surfaced, but their focus shifted to locating survivors in the tall grass. A familiar figure caught their attention, prompting Reju to step forward with a calm response. Once reunited, she encouraged the group to welcome their new friend and treat them kindly. Reju smiled as chants of nakama echoed joyfully, the group celebrating their growing bonds. Despite the cheerful moment, she recognized the harshness of their world and the hunger ahead. Thinking practically, she weighed their growing numbers against future risks, aware of her growing responsibility. While searching again, they stumbled across an unexpected scene, several unconscious humans lying in the grass. Shock overtook her. After 10 long years, Reju had finally found someone of her kind. Reju burst with excitement, shouting in joy upon realizing one had long ears, a new kind indeed. Quickly regaining composure, she comforted the young ones while reminding everyone to prioritize helping the newcomers. As the humans sat up, confusion still visible, Reju confirmed their identity with cheerful curiosity. Without explaining, she darted off energetically, leaving the humans puzzled by her sudden enthusiasm. Announcing a festival, Reju gave the signal everyone was free to eat and celebrate without restraint. Excited chants of breakfast filled the air as the flock dove in without hesitation. Reju watched fondly, amused by their eagerness, despite the mess and lack of utensils. She reassured the newcomers, explaining that raw meat took getting used to, but it was survivable. Realizing space was tight, she gently shifted others aside, preparing for something only she could do. With a sharp leap and focused gaze, Reju unleashed a mighty kick to prepare the meal. Reju cheerfully offered the meat, apologizing for starting the feast without inviting the others first. Unsure if it suited human taste, she hesitated, but they politely declined with awkward smiles. Meanwhile, one of the flock gnawed determinedly, struggling to speak through a mouthful of meat. Reju blinked in surprise, realizing she was casually conversing with humans for the first time. She assured them the flock meant no harm, everyone here was nakama, worthy of trust. Surrounded by cheerful Beastkin, the human nervously echoed nakama, trying to keep up with the mood. One of the flock surprised the elf with sudden affection, causing confusion and laughter alike. Reju quickly reassured them, explaining the behavior wasn't harmful, just overly enthusiastic and poorly timed. Introducing herself again, she clarified her role as leader even if she lacked an actual name. With a bright smile, Reju dismissed the thanks, brushing it off as part of friendship. Eyes sparkling, Reju eagerly asked where the visitors had come from. Desperate to learn more, the young man introduced their leader, Carudius, and explained they crossed from the Empire overseas. Their story unfolded with tales of curiosity, exploration, and a job that went badly wrong. Listening closely, Rieju silently questioned how such clearly weak adventurers had managed to survive. Another member introduced himself as Zad-san, a quarter dwarf, leaving Rieju amazed at the fantasy-like cast. Amelia was introduced as the group's mage, but immediately got smothered by clingy affection. Rieju pointed out the behavior, explaining the culprit had grown oddly attached to Amelia's scent. Trying to help, she gently redirected the overzealous flock member to go wash up, with patience. Amelia offered to help clean her up, leading her toward the nearby stream. Back at the riverbank, the group relaxed as they wondered what to call their feathered host, choosing a name at last. She proudly declared herself Riju, drawing from an old origin term. Carutius formally thanked her, but her tone shifted as she recognized the seriousness of the moment. With a calm gaze, Rieju accepted the gratitude, but quickly followed with a firm question. Her responsibility clear, she asked how her kind would be treated if they crossed into human lands. The thought of being hunted or enslaved surfaced. She had to know before trusting them fully. Reza questioned whether her kind would be seen as equals or monsters if discovered by humans. She silenced personal desires, choosing to protect her pack as their responsible leader. With unwavering resolve, she demanded a clear answer, seeking truth before placing trust. Rieju turned sharply, sensing something unnatural behind the group. Alarm filled her eyes. Dozens of ostrich beastkin slowly emerged from the shadows, closing in on her silently. She froze. Every creature stared, unblinking, their gaze locked solely on her trembling figure. Nearby, the leader felt crushing pressure, sweat pouring as fear gripped the entire group. Desperation rising, he knelt and braced himself. One wrong word, everyone would die instantly. Rieju hesitated, stunned by his words suggesting she might be accepted as human. He explained the continent's diversity, where various species coexisted despite lingering discrimination between races. Humanoids of all forms were grouped under the broad classification of humankind by those nations. That idea originated in a powerful empire, uniting both continents under a single belief system. Long ago, during violent racial wars, the empire already stood firm amidst chaos and division. Once, the empire built strong alliances with non-human nations, fostering trust across species lines. That peace ended when a new emperor enforced a policy exalting humans above all others. Now, despite bans on discrimination, empathy fades as short-lived humans forget ancient bonds. Religious belief framed all humanoids as divine, created in the image of a god. Even so, fear of racial conflict persists, leaving Rieju wary of being seen as a monster. Rieju smiled confidently, relieved that her kind could now be seen as people. Curious and emboldened, she asked another question while the boy nervously granted permission. Understanding bloomed as she expressed gratitude, then offered meat as a light-hearted apology. Despite the explanation, the complexities of nations, races, and faith left her completely baffled. She acknowledged the difficulty of judging society by one voice. But questions still remained. The group agreed to escort Rieju, thrilled by the chance to visit her homeland. She expressed interest in seeing the outside world and offered her kin as guards. He explained they came from a region of scattered nations beyond the Empire's grasp. Those lands, constantly shifting, vied to reclaim space from the Empire's control. Hope sparked mercenary work might allow them to survive and earn recognition in this world. During hunts, her wild allies often lost control, attacking everything, even their own. Despite the chaos, she still dreamed of earning gold and tasting refined, civilized meals. Rieju beamed, imagining new foods and elegant cities beyond anything she'd ever known. While walking, she approached the elf Amelia, curious about something that had just come to mind. Amelia, lost in bliss, remained unaware of the girl riding her, simply happy with the scent. Amelia glanced at the growing crowd, puzzled by how large Rieju's group had become. Rieju explained casually that her flock had multiplied again, including several completely new members. Naturally drawn to groups, ostrich beastfolk felt compelled to join any gathering they encountered. Survival instinct drove this behavior. Smaller flocks were too vulnerable to survive alone. So without hesitation, they welcomed newcomers, forming one ever-growing, chaotic, but united family. Rieju proudly shared that her ever-growing flock remained peaceful and gentle, no matter the size. Amelia struggled to communicate with one of them, who mistook her name for food. Despite the challenges, Rieju had grown used to it, though the intelligence gap remained striking. Amelia raised concern, warning that townspeople weren't as kind as Rieju believed. She worried how such emotionally young, innocent ones would fare beyond their sheltered lives. Amelia suggested they might be safer staying on the plateau, away from human cruelty. Rezu acknowledged her concern but insisted they hadn't seen the outside world yet. There could be opportunities out there, and it would be unfair to dismiss them. Compared to the plateau, the cities lacked deadly monsters and seemed more secure. Even so, Rieju admitted many enemies remained more than she could count on both hands. Among the countless threats, the most feared were called Biku Biku, and the flock trembled. Panic spread fast, as they mistakenly believed one had appeared just from hearing the name. Reiju reassured them gently, reminding everyone that only friends were nearby, no danger in sight. She explained the truth. Biku Biku were terrifying flying dragons that could control lightning. Their first encounter ended in tragedy, with half the flock lost in a single strike. Rezu shouted for the others to flee as lightning pierced their normally resistant feathers. Multiple dragons loomed overhead, forcing them to retreat beneath the pounding rain. Though they'd faced these monsters before, all they could ever do was run away. Once she charged alone to buy time, enduring lightning for her flock's escape. Despite landing blows, the dragon's defenses remained unmatched. She hoped to never meet one again. Amelia was stunned. Elder dragons were dangerous enough, yet these creatures rivaled them in threat. Rezu smiled gently, stressing how much her kind needed a safe place to survive. Despite the risk, she had once charged head on into a thunder dragon and lived. Amelia realized Rieju's magic exceeded all limits, and even her feathers held rare power. Those feathers, with immense resistances, were treasures beyond belief even as simple ornaments. Even with Rieju's strength, the others remained vulnerable to exploitation for their valuable feathers. Amelia vowed to protect them, recalling the suffering elves once endured in silence. Hope remained that beyond hardship, a joyful world awaited their strange but united group. Weeks passed, and Zadsan enjoyed a calm afternoon, quietly snacking beneath the open sky. Reiju suddenly raised a concern about visiting town while still unclothed, drawing awkward glances. She explained, her wings made clothing impractical, and insisted her feathers served every necessary function. Zadsan reflected on beastfolk traditions, comparing them to more modest regions, imagining public reactions. Although he tried to reassure her, Zadsan knew the real shock wouldn't be about clothing. Zadsan froze at the unsettling sight of Rieju's tribe feasting casually on fallen orcs. They defended the practice confidently, claiming anything non-kin, including dragons, was fair game for meals. Rezu, misunderstanding local dangers, asked Zadsan to help locate edible monsters for breakfast. Surveying the forest, Zadsan spotted a large orc settlement nearby, raising serious concern. Returning quickly, he tried explaining the risk, but Reiju greeted him without a care. Zadsan reported the threat: over 200 orcs, including powerful ones, near enough to endanger towns. While hugging her meal, Rieju tried recalling facts about orcs, listening to the extermination request. With sudden enthusiasm, she accepted the task, imagining them as delicious pigs waiting to be gathered. The ostrich Beastkin launched their attack, overwhelming the horde with strength that stunned the watching humans. Reiju alone split multiple orcs effortlessly, ending the battle in moments with overwhelming force. As soon as the battle ended, the tribe began tearing into the fallen orc bodies. Reiju admitted it once felt disturbing, but survival left little room for moral hesitation. Despite lacking intellect, the tribe upheld fierce loyalty, protecting allies while turning feral against enemies. Anion outside that bond, Reiju declared with a smile, was simply a future meal. Though some Beastkin eyed Zadsan curiously, allies like Amelia remained safe at least for now. Clean and satisfied after their meal, Rieju confidently rallied the group to continue the journey. They followed the familiar trail, led by the blonde youth who recognized the nearing town. Seeing the distant castle wall, the Beastkin gasped in awe, overwhelmed by its immense size. Before entering, Rieju reminded everyone to greet the humans peacefully and avoid causing chaos. Despite her optimism, she admitted the townspeople might forget everything soon after they arrived. The group finally reached Prague, the southernmost town known for monster materials and constant threats. Hopeful, they discussed selling special goods gathered from battles to secure a stable income. Their collection included dragon teeth and orc ears, proof of survival, and valuable trade items. Concerns rose about food expenses, but news of farmlands in the northeast offered hope. Still, the Beastkin's hunger made Rieju nervous. They might eat everything before reaching the fields. As the group neared the town gates, Rieju struggled to keep the energetic Beastkin organized. Seeing the guards grow tense, they decided to send Zadsan ahead to ease concerns. While waiting, Rieju tried calming everyone and proposed dividing their earnings fairly. Beastkin affection quickly turned chaotic as kisses and disobedience disrupted the fragile order. Suddenly, Zadsan returned urgently, calling out Rieju's name as the mounted commander approached. Zadsan proudly presented the group to the commander, while Beastkin murmured curiously about breakfast. A sparkling horse caught their attention, immediately triggering instincts to identify it as a food source. Rizu nervously asked for patience, while the commander attempted a formal introduction. Misunderstandings escalated. As the tribe stared at the horse, debating whether it was edible. Panicked, Rizu yelled again, desperately trying to make them sit and behave. Rizu apologized for the misunderstanding, explaining that none of them had ever seen a horse before. The knight formally introduced herself as Matilda, guardian of Prague and servant of the kingdom of Heed. Surprised by her status, Rizu questioned how Zadsan ended up bringing someone so important. With a smile, Rizu introduced herself as the leader of the ostrich beastfolk tribe. She clarified they came for peaceful tourism, though the group size seemed to raise concerns. Matilda brought up the possibility of relocation, revealing that Zadsan had mentioned it earlier. Rizu agreed, requesting a bit of space near town, as this was their first human visit. Though Matilda seemed calm, Rizu noticed her sharp awareness, masked behind a polite demeanor. Just as things settled, Rizu spotted something alarming behind Matilda that made her gasp. The knight then praised their strength, officially welcoming them as potential assets to Prague. Matilda suddenly shifted tone, explaining neighboring threats and the need to test their trustworthiness. She challenged Rizu to a duel, prompting immediate excitement, rather than alarm from the ostrich chief. The Beastkin panicked, misinterpreting the situation as a violent hunt and preparing to attack. Rizu quickly calmed them down, reassuring everyone that it was just a friendly sparring match. With pats and grins, the tribe relaxed, their spirits lifted by Rizu's steady presence. Matilda's fierce aura overwhelmed the Beastkin, causing panic as they misinterpreted her challenge as lethal intent. Rizu frantically tried restoring order, shouting over the startled and trembling crowd. After realizing her mistake, Matilda apologized while Rizu urged caution. Rizu introduced a simple rule: sit nicely, and rewards followed. Curious children quickly gathered around her. Excitement filled the group. Every child followed instructions, sitting with bright smiles and focused attention. Though Rizu remained their pillar, she realized the team's support was easing her burden considerably. A quiet apology escaped her lips. Gratitude and relief softened her expression as she regained composure. Despite her light tone, Rizu stayed alert. Should danger arise, she trusted their fierce defense. Warnings were given about the ostrich folk's strength. Even Rizu struggled to hold them back. Once everything was in place, Rizu stepped forward with confidence to begin the demonstration. Memories of a peaceful past surfaced, yet she braced for the warrior's practiced aggression. She offered the first move, curious to test her opponent's real combat capability firsthand. Without hesitation, the armored warrior lunged forward, spear thrust low and eyes locked on target. Within moments, the armored warrior had closed the gap, catching Rizu off guard with her speed. Eyes locked in concentration, the soldier lunged forward with precise intent, spear aimed directly at Rizu. A sharp breath escaped as Rizu tilted, narrowly evading the strike that sliced the air. Multiple evasive steps followed. Rizu weaved through the assault, forcing her opponent to reconsider tactics. Each movement targeted vital points. Rizu realized the warrior wasn't holding back in this match. Rizu observed her opponent closely, impressed by how smoothly each motion adapted to her movement. Unable to land direct hits, the warrior smartly shifted tactics, wearing Rizu down through constant pressure. Although inexperienced in formal training, Rizu recognized the discipline behind every thrust and repositioning step rather than matching technique. She decided to counter with pure physical might at the right moment. The opponent skidded back, keeping distance, readying her stance for the next clash. Rizu hesitated, worried she might have overdone it as the warrior trembled from the impact. A subtle nod followed. With a steady gaze, Rizu decided it was time to respond. She launched into action. Each kick was deliberate, aimed to impress yet avoid serious damage. The clash ended with laughter for Rizu. This was her first fight without deadly stakes. Later, she smiled brightly while chatting with adventurers, warmth replacing earlier tension. As their weapons clashed, Rizu felt something deeper, a connection formed in silence, wordless yet sincere. A smile tugged at her lips. This battle, unlike any before, filled her with joy. Still, the warrior knew time was limited. Rizu's stamina wouldn't last in prolonged exchanges. Momentum shifted. Rizu's kick met the spear, steel ringing out under growing fatigue. With a final move, the knight halted the fight, declaring it over, waiting for Rizu's reply. Matilda, out of breath, expressed genuine gratitude, unaware of the murmurs spreading among her soldiers. Rizu suddenly remembered her flock, worry creeping in as she hoped they hadn't caused trouble. Relief swept over her. Every child sat in perfect order, calmly waiting as instructed. Their confused expressions met her gaze. Something else now occupied their curious little minds. When asked about breakfast, Rieju and Matilda found themselves unexpectedly chosen for the next task. Rieju panicked as the kids misinterpreted the sparring match, thinking the knight was potential prey. She realized their confusion made sense. Survival had always equaled victory, and losing meant becoming food. With a firm tone, Rieju corrected them, warning against attacking or eating others in the future. Her raised voice startled the group, prompting a wave of tearful apologies and flustered reassurance. Watching the chaos, Matilda laughed heartily, finding the moment unexpectedly heartwarming and utterly hilarious. Matilda praised Rieju's strength, but duty called her back before they could talk further. As the knight prepared to leave, Rieju gathered the children to bid her farewell. Rieju cheerfully taught them how to wave, introducing a gentler way to say goodbye. The concept confused them. On the plateau, parting usually meant someone wouldn't return. Riding away, Matilda drew concern from a soldier unsure if her visit had been wise. A soldier voiced doubt about the flock. Matilda swiftly silenced him with a chilling warning. Despite her rebuke, she admitted the fear was valid. Rieju alone could wipe out battalions. The group's strength was undeniable, but their unpredictable behavior made the threat more troubling. Yet behind those eyes was reflection. Kindness shown was always returned in equal measure. Still, memories of their power lingered. Each clash felt less like sparring and more like survival. Rieju quietly expressed remorse, unsure if her presence had caused unease despite her good intentions. Matilda reflected on Rieju's behavior, finding only kindness where arrogance would normally dwell in the powerful from horseback. She declared Rieju and her flock allies, placing national protection. Discussions about their future began. Rieju considered settling if the town welcomed them warmly. Among warriors, beings like her were labeled exceptional class monsters in strength, human only in form. Matilda reflected on terrifying rumors monsters, who could level armies or survive fatal injuries with ease. Fear surfaced briefly, but she regained her composure, aware their nation lacked such overwhelming power. Rather than force them, she devised a simple plan: earn their trust through kindness and support. Preparations began swiftly. Lodging, supplies, and messages to the king were arranged with urgent care. Suddenly, a soldier interrupted her. Rieju's flock had returned, bringing new urgency to her plans. A soldier rushed in reporting that the ostrich children were crying loudly in the street. Matilda froze, confused by their repeated apologies and emotional outburst. Rieju and her ostrich tribe arrived at a civilized city for the first time, wide-eyed with wonder. A helpful man explained the marketplace layout, pointing toward the Adventurers Guild just ahead. While exploring, Rieju got drawn to a map vendor offering detailed charts of the continent. Eager to understand the world better, she dashed off while leaving the children in safe hands. Unfolding the map excitedly, Rieju's expression shifted to shock as something unexpected caught her attention. While scanning the map, Rieju froze. One country's shape looked unmistakably like modern-day Italy. Flipping to the next page, she saw Africa's outline, confirming the continents were suspiciously familiar. Confused, Rieju asked Amelia, who casually called the world Earth, adding to the growing mystery. The map vendor claimed the world was formed by the goddess, possibly even shaped by a sneeze. Though startled by their beliefs, Rieju decided to avoid saying anything too strange going forward. The adventurer could no longer handle the energetic kids, leaving Rieju scrambling to regain control. Curious about everything, the little ones scattered through the streets, mesmerized by unfamiliar sights and sounds. They pointed excitedly at houses, cows, and food stalls, overwhelmed by the strange world around them. Seeing a bald man, their attention shifted again, shouting joyfully at the shiny, headed stranger. Despite Rieju's frantic apologies, the children cheered bald. While the man awkwardly accepted their enthusiasm, Rieju demanded an apology, only to be met with the man's tragic tale of chest hair growth. She quickly dashed off, yelling after the children who were already running in random directions again. Attempting to regroup, she shouted loudly, managing to briefly gather the restless ostrich kids around her. Relieved to see everyone together, she suggested heading out only to realize they'd scattered again instantly. Trying to contain chaos, the adventurer stepped in, struggling to control the overwhelming number of distractions. Normally cautious in the wild, the ostrich children freely scattered, sensing the city posed no threat. Struggling to manage them, Rieju found herself exhausted from chasing every direction they ran toward. Despite the chaos, seeing their excitement brought her unexpected happiness and a sense of fulfillment. After many rounds of checking, she finally confirmed everyone was present and accounted for. Watching one girl cry over a ring, someone gently remarked that she truly was just a girl. One girl stood mesmerized by the accessory stall, unable to look away from the sparkling trinkets. Vendors admired her innocent curiosity, noting how she hadn't taken her eyes off the display. The atmosphere turned gentle as smiles spread, forming an unexpectedly peaceful moment in the bustling market. Reju watched in awe, surprised by such emotional growth in someone she thought was always aloof. But beneath the cuteness, those unblinking eyes revealed a sharp, predatory gaze locked on her prize. Caught mid-bite. The girl was scolded for trying to eat the jewelry out of instinct. Reju, overwhelmed by close calls and chaos, decided it was safest to leave the market. When asked if they were hungry, the kids perked up and echoed the word breakfast eagerly. They waddled toward a man, staring with intense eyes that made him freeze in place. Fortunately, Reju's warning flashed in her mind: humans were friends, not food, prompting her to back down. The children scattered in all directions, until one spotted a fruit stand and froze in awe. Approaching the vendor, they greeted him excitedly, calling him a beast, person they hadn't seen before. Their eyes sparkled as they fixated on the shiny fruits, glistening on display. A vague memory surfaced. Reju once told them to eat fruit freely during a similar situation. Then another memory warned them not to take food without asking, prompting guilty looks and apologies. Their eyes welled with tears, as they struggled to resist the overwhelming scent of ripe fruit. The vendor, amused by their reactions, praised the fruit and offered one as a present. Seeing their confusion, he energetically clarified that they could take one if they liked it. With a smile, he reassured them. It was a gift, not something they had to steal. Overjoyed by the generous permission, the kids nodded eagerly, believing they could now take everything. Overjoyed by permission, the kids leapt toward the fruit pile, cheering as they launched into the air. Caught off guard, the vendor was overwhelmed as they crashed into his stall in a frenzy. Reju and her companion rushed over, stunned by the sudden uproar from the now unstoppable horde. Despite her shouting, the delicious fruit triggered chaos, sending the children into an eating rampage. Soon, they were nestled in baskets, munching happily without a care, entirely lost in satisfaction. A heavy silence fell. The kids froze, sensing something dreadful was about to happen. Reju loomed over them, seething with rage as the ground seemed to rumble beneath her. Panic spread instantly. Children and vendor alike screamed in terror, trembling under her furious glare. She roared, scolding everyone for eating without asking, leaving no room for excuses or escape. With trembling voices, they apologized, repeatedly, now directed toward the equally frightened fruit vendor. Reju collapsed in the grass, utterly drained, as the ostrich children lay scattered around her.